This is the Fourth and Forever podcast. I'm your host, Josh Kirby, and let's get into it. Well, here we are, about a little over a week removed from the Super Bowl, and it's the off season now. Many things are transpiring. We got the draft coming up in a few months. We got a whole bunch of free agency, off season things going on. We got so much I want to go through this season. It's partially breakdowns of each team and how the free agency and overall draft prowess and their whole off season is going to go. I want to start something. I'm probably going to start a little after the draft, which is the football 101, explaining to trying to get a lot of new people into the idea of football. And we have a lot of other things to cover. And got Masters in April, so we'll eventually get to golf talks eventually on this channel. But first and foremost, something I want to do leading up to the draft is I'm going to go over most likely the top 100 or top 150 prospects coming out. Now, I'm going to talk about them in probably a 10 to 10 ratio from video to video, trying to put out maybe 2 videos a week for everyone. Most importantly, though, with the breakdown, I want to do this is not per se my rankings, but it is the ranking compiled that I got from ESPN, PFF, a few different outlets. So all the stats that I'm going to be reading today, all the projections, everything that I'm going to be going over today will be compiled from those 2 databases, which is very helpful that those options are out there. So I'm just going to jump right into it to talk about my first 10 prospects for the 2026 NFL draft and what this could mean for these players, teams, and the NFL moving forward. So first and foremost, I want to start off talking about quarterback Fernando Mendoza. He's the quarterback for the Indiana Hoosiers. He just won the national championship. They just completed a perfect 15-0 season. Throughout his college career, he has a 68.6 completion percentage, over 8,000 career yards, 71 career touchdowns, with 41 of those coming in the 2025 college football season, which led the college football entirely. He had 22 interceptions in his career, with only 6 coming in last year, which he actually had 6 back-to-back years, which is pretty impressive. The main thing to note about him, he is a pocket passer with mobility. He's more likely running to throw than he is running to scramble and get yards, but he does have a better running ability than most people would think of. I wouldn't say he's got the mobility of Josh Allen, but maybe he's got a little more like a Bo Nix type of, or maybe a Justin Herbert kind of rushing ability, where he can scramble out and get you a couple yards for sure. His biggest pro coming out is his elite intermediate timing throws, which is a lot of stuff you see running like Shanahan offenses, or even Mike McDaniels, what he was able to do with Tua for a consistent period of time down him for at least 2 out of the 3 years in Miami, being able to hit those intermediate timing routes. It's really good for overall receiver route combinations and getting a relationship with quarterback to receiver. He has been considered a really high football IQ, which across the board is a very valuable thing in your future franchise quarterback, and he's been talked about to have very clean mechanics, being able to sit in the pocket well, move his feet relatively firm, and being able to release at a good rate. So overall, everything from the neck down and from the neck up, very impressive. I mean, and like I said, working through the mechanics, his timing scheme, he really does work through reads quickly, which, for those who don't know, that means being able to go through when the quarterback has the ball, looking at, okay, option 1, option 2, which would be his receivers, the routes that were drawn up. It's going through, like I said, his progressions, scanning the whole field to see what targets are going. And that's scanning basically saying, okay, on this route concept, my wide receiver would be the first one I look for. Generally, it doesn't always work like that, but that some concepts, that's how it goes. But you look for there, then you look, okay, who's my number 2 option? It's kind of like, let's say, the Bengals, for example. When you have 3 talented receivers, you're looking at, okay, on this route scheme, I'm looking at Jamar Chase first. If he's covered, bam, next target, looking at T. Higgins. He's covered, next target, Yoshi Voss. Yoshi Voss is open, boom, hit Yoshi Voss with the ball. It's kind of being able to do that at a quick rate really helps translate quarterbacks from the college football to the NFL. His I would say have 2 of his biggest, I guess, not cons, but I would say is less than positive uh, things about him or traits would be his arm strength is good, but it's not elite. You would not consider him an elite deep ball thrower. Even though he has a good arm, it is just not, it wouldn't be up there with guys like I said, Josh Allen or Matthew Stafford. He wouldn't quite have that kind of arm quality. And then maybe he can force throws under pressure, which in the NFL, that can force a lot of turnovers, can have a lot of balls sailing out of bounds. So it's something that he really has to trust his offensive line more in the NFL. And this, I mean, that's stuff that you can coach up. He gets to the right system. Hopefully Clint Kubiak can coach him up on that, and that becomes almost a non-issue. And a lot of people are considering his closest comp, I think with a little more mobility on his side, would be Jared Goff. At least that would be considered his floor. They see him, the worst case scenario, him being Jared Goff, a true pocket passer that can deliver the ball at an exceptional rate and gets everyone on the offense moving and just keeps the offense moving forward. Now, it does mean he may throw some he may not be as great under pressure, which is generally Goff's biggest complaint, is he's not great in cold weather or under pressure. Those are two things that I think we're going to look at him and knows that they can really separate him from that comparison. So he'd be the first one I talked about. Most likely he's going number one to the Raiders. There's so much you can say about him as just a player. If you've seen any interviews by him, he's a nice stand-up guy. He's someone that you want to lead your franchise into the future, and I very recommend going and looking through game tape on him. He really is an exceptional prospect. But next on my list, I want to talk about Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State Buckeyes. In his career, he has surfaced over 256 total tackles, 163 solo tackles, and he had 90 plus tackles in both of his last seasons. He's got 10 pass deflections in his career, 3 forced fumbles, and 6 interceptions. He's helped lead a defense that has only allowed 9.3 points per game. He has more of a hybrid style, definitely playing more like a Kyle Hamilton, which Kyle Hamilton and Derwin James would be his two comps from coming out of college to the pro. They say he's very instinctive, meaning that almost like he plays the quarterback on the defensive side of the ball, meaning that he'll probably get into defensive, being the Mike on defense, more often than not as he progresses throughout his early career. He's going to be, like I said, he's going to be versatile. You're going to put him up at the linebacker spot. You're going to drop him back deep safety. He's going to play more in cover. Sometimes he might slide over to the slot. He has a lot more versatility to him at a safety position, and that is something that they are very high on, especially his football IQ being so high. The only real downside I could find on him was he can over pursue, which could mean him, I think this is more of an issue, if anything, against running backs, sometimes receivers. If you over pursue on a receiver's route, sometimes if they hit a comeback or a curl, then he might be able to get beat on that route. Or up in the trenches with the running backs, he might over pursue a potential handoff, and it ends up being a play action, could really put him in a tough position on something like that. But once again, that's something that coaching can really fix at that NFL level. So as a prospect for a safety, I think that is phenomenal. Looks like projections is the Dolphins would most likely take him, but I will be honest with you, even though I drop a team on these teams, I am going to do a first round mock draft probably a week or two before the draft, because I'm trying to get my bearings down with college. I don't watch a lot of college football, so a lot of what I've done is research on these guys, and I'm more so relaying information for myself so I know moving forward, but also so the audience watching can kind of get a better feel of these athletes coming out, and you can get a sense of what they are going to do coming into the NFL. Moving on to that, I want to talk about our third prospect in Rueben Bain Jr. He is an edge rusher for the Miami Hurricanes. He has posted up 20.5 sacks in his career, with 9.5 of those sacks coming in 2025. He has had 4 forced fumbles and an interception in his career. He has an elite pressure rate, and they say the whole thing that I've read about him, that his number one trait is his power. They say he has NFL ready power, he has many advanced pass rush moves, and he has an explosive first step, meaning that against tackles that may not be at his degree, he's going to get off the line a little quicker, and with his power he can really run over guys. They say overall, his biggest issue, I think, they said against elite tackles, he can be kind of almost non-existent, which that happens to a lot of guys in the NFL coming in. When you're playing a top-tier tackle, they're a top-tier tackle for a reason. They say his closest comp is Max Crosby. This is an edge rusher that I think would greatly help the Jets, who have an early draft pick. He'd be able to come on, be right on the other side of McDonald, and really establish the ends of that team. It's going to be exciting moving forward, seeing how he would progress, how that power would translate with him. Still, I have to say, like I said, seeing how he's going to play against NFL style tackles, but being able to have that explosive first step is going to give him a leg up. And they, like I said, the power is what I kept reading about. And they said his power is everything, and that will probably be the defining factor why he gets drafted so high, because you can work with that. You can't teach power. You can teach leverage from power, but you cannot teach overall power, and that's something that he has naturally. Next, I want to talk about sorry if I say this wrong, Arvell Reese. He's a linebacker for the Ohio State Buckeyes. In his career, 112 total tackles, 2 pass defended, 7 sacks. He's considered a true consistent modern coverage linebacker. He has a very great skill set of rare range and speed across the field. He's considered an elite athlete. They said his issue is he probably going to stay back in coverage. His block shedding against the defensive line is a little inconsistent. They put him really considering to Micah Parsons. And if anyone remembers when Micah Parsons first came out, the NFL did not know where they were going to play him. Were they going to sit him as a true linebacker, or were they going to have him run on the line / the edge more often? And it's because with the skill set and the athleticism like that, you have to kind of put him into your defense and see where he's going to thrive the most at this level. As in, you even looked at his stats, he was a little bit all over the place stat-wise of what he was really good at, and also where he was more consistent at. His tackling is probably his most proficient, but coverage is, like I said, coverage is kind of where he really thrives as a linebacker. He's going to really be able to sync up the middle of a defense, and I think that's going to be really helpful for any team that needs a true linebacker on their defense moving forward. A lot of people would consider him a defensive chess piece. That is something I've kind of noticed, that key phrasing, a defensive chess piece, kind of like we see with guys like Micah Parsons. I think that comp is a perfect comp for him. He has a lot of exciting highlight reels too. I encourage everyone to go out and look at that. Next on my list would be Jeremiah Love, running back, Notre Dame. He has had back-to-back 1,000-plus yard seasons, back-to-back 16-plus touchdown seasons, 594 career receiving yards with 6 receiving touchdowns on his career. He's a burner, guys. He's got home run speed. He's dangerous in space. He's just a guy that can break open an offense. He's productive. He's efficient. He's, I would say, kind of flashy, but in all the right kind of ways. He's going to help he can be an every down bell cow back. Now, his main issue coming out is his pass blocking is a little more inconsistent. Definitely needs some work. And a lot of NFL offenses, that means when you come in, you're probably going to be a rotational back to start off his career. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start immediately on a team, depending on what team takes him. His biggest comp is Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think that's a perfect comp. They have that breakaway speed. They're dangerous in space. They really can keep the ball running, and like I said, it took a couple years for Jahmyr Gibbs really to take hold of that number one running back spot, splitting it with Montgomery, but he took full hold of it this past season, and that's something I think Love will really benefit going to a team that can coach him up on that pass blocking ability and get him out there on every single down. He is going to be an efficient, effective running back. He may not have an immediate explosive impact, such as like a Saquon Barkley had his year one, but I certainly, if his comp is Jahmyr Gibbs and he can be anywhere close to that for a team, that means you have your franchise running back, and that is huge. He's an exciting player. I'm sure everyone that's seen Notre Dame knows he's probably the best player coming out of that college right now. Next, I want to talk about Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Ohio Buckeyes. He has had 50-plus receptions in his last 2 seasons, 1,872 career yards, averaging 15.5 yard per reception. He has 14 career touchdowns, and he is just a true route runner, a route technician. He's got big play production. He's a smooth separator, high IQ. I mean, you can't say enough good things about this guy. His body control is rare. He's got good body control. He's got even a better catch reliability, which for any team that's looking for a solid number 2, this is probably your guy. I think he has number 1 potential, but from what I've read, he's not an elite physical wide receiver. He's not going to blow you up off the line. He's not going to he may not win a lot of tough, tightly one-on-one against a bigger, more physical corner, such as a guy like a Christian Gonzalez. He's got his yak ability is kind of on the average side, but possession is very important, having a solid possession receiver. They say his comp is Chris Olave, which I like that comparison, as you've seen what he can do with enough targets in New Orleans. But on the high end of looking for a possession receiver, a guy like Cooper Kupp, we've watched what he's been able to do at the latter half of his career right now. He just led the Seahawks in receptions and yards in the Super Bowl. His second Super Bowl title. Having a guy like that on your team is so valuable. He's some guy that's going to slot in and he's going to be efficient immediately. Now, he may not get you 1,600 yards every season. He may not get you 14 plus touchdowns year 1, but he is going to be a consistent, reliable target, and he does have a good red zone efficiency, being a guy that can possess and just get open. He is going to be, like I said, he's going to be hopping to a team that have a team such as, I don't know, the Giants, who I think have Malik Neighbors. They have a 2-3 in Robinson. You slide in a guy like this on an offense like that, the sky's the limit, honestly. That would be, to me, that would be the ideal place, I think, to put him on a team that's really trying to build around a young quarterback and need a young, consistent piece that is just going to be reliable. He's just going to be there. And that production can really ramp up numbers. I mean, you've seen great guys turn into possession guys over their careers, and what they've been able to do, and not just create a career, but create a long-term career out of it. Because speed comes and goes. Strength can dissipate over time, but one thing that does not lose sight on the field is a guy that catches the ball 5 to 6 to 7 times a game. That will always be reliable for any team that takes him. Next, I want to talk about Francis. I want to say Mauigoa. I might be saying that wrong. I'm sorry if I am. I will learn a better pronunciation moving forward. Like I said, a lot of these players are new to me too. But he is an offensive tackle for the Miami Hurricanes. He's only allowed 2 sacks all season. He played 114 of those snaps at right tackle. So more likely than not, coming out, he is going to slide into a right tackle position. Now, we've seen guys at this high level of proficiency moved over to a left tackle position. We saw what Joe Alt was able to do. He was drafted as a right tackle and then ended up being excellent at left tackle when playing. And now they got 2 phenomenal tackles. A guy like this, he's going to come in and slide in immediately. They consider him an elite pass blocking win rate. He's a power tackle, mauler in the run game, they say. The ability, so he has the versatility to be efficient, to use his power in the pass protection, and also to help his running back create open lanes, which is great for any team that really needs to bring in a nice offensive tackle to just slot in. And there's so many teams early in the draft that's going to need stuff like that, because when you're building a young quarterback, having a proper tackle would be very beneficial. A team like the Chiefs, who had a really down year, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade up to get a guy like this. This is a guy that could really help bolster down your offensive line almost immediately. They said his biggest issue is probably he could improve on foot quickness a little bit. Being a guy with so much power, he may not be as good against a tackle or against an edge rusher that use a little more speed maneuvers. But his comp is Tristan Wirfs, and we've all seen what Tristan Wirfs has been able to do down there in Tampa. So if that's a tell for anything about this guy's going to be a stud in this league. Next, I got David Bailey. He is an edge rusher with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. He has 163 career tackles with 106 solo tackles. That's pretty significant. 29 career sacks, 14.5 in 2025, and was 3rd among all edge rushers for sacks. He had 10 forced fumbles in his career. He was ranked 3rd in sacks, hurries, and hits in 2025, and ranked 1st in total pressures. He's a true speed rusher, and he has an explosive first step. Now, they say he's still developing a lot of counter moves. That stuff I think the NFL is going to just be able to really teach him. going against elite tackles, they're going to watch film on you. They're eventually your tendencies are going to kick in. They're going to understand you, and you're just going to have to learn how to maneuver out of situations like that. Such as we've seen that on the Ravens with Mike Green this season. He had a really cool, really good swim move in preseason, and then when he started in the regular season, a lot of these tackles saw that, and veterans tackles were getting the better of him on that, such as I think that's something he needs to work on going into his year 2. This is a guy that can come out and make an immediate impact on whatever team he does. And like I said, I think the key focus is how many tackles he racked up. Now, they say his comp is Brian Burns, and Brian Burns just had one of his best seasons of his career last year. He was all over the place with his speed, his length, his ability to get to the quarterback. I think he was second in the league in sacks. But like I said, the thing that I took away most from watching his film and reading up on him was the 106 solo tackles out of 163 total tackles. That means more than half, like a majority. I think, what was it, like 2/3 of his production of tackles is just him. That shows he's going to be, that right there proves to me that he can make it in this league. Whether he's going to be an elite edge rusher in this league, or he's just going to be a consistent role player. Someone that can tackle that much is going to have a spot on every team, because in the NFL, you have to be able to tackle. Especially if you're playing anywhere up on that front of the line, you have to be able to tackle. It is things, you get killed for that in the media, in coaching, in all aspects more than anything. If we're watching the screen and you can't make a tackle, you just outright can't play. And that is just, it's so true. It as a fan, it frustrates us so much to watch someone on our team not being able to complete a simple tackle, because that is the basis of defensive football. Tackle your guy. And then as a more on the analytics side, it just looks bad. If you're constantly missing tackles, it looks like you have the inability to understand what that offense is doing and how to stop it. I think he's going to be so far out of all the top 10 outside of Fernando Mendoza and Caleb Downs, two that I think are going to be home run hitters, I like this guy, reading about him the best. I like what I watched on film. I liked what I read about. I looked at it through his stats. Everything that David Bailey has put out has truly made me believe he is going to be a star in this league. And I would probably have him coming out earlier in the draft, even earlier than the other edge rusher in Ruben Bain. Like I said, I think it's just his how many tackles he gets impresses me. That really impresses me. I really look for guys like that. They're all their stats aren't. It's like he just had consistent stacks, and you could tell that he's going to slide into a team. He's immediately going to become a consistent role player, and I love that. And I value that really high. Next, though, I want to talk about Sonny Styles, who they consider him a linebacker at safety. He's kind of a hybrid kind of style for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, 245 career tackles, 132 solo tackles. Another guy gets to the ball. He tacks the ball, tacks the man with the ball. I love that. He 9 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and an interception in his career. But like I was just saying, when it comes to sacks, from what I read from the PFF website, he had 0 missed tackles in the 2025 season. That is elite to me. No, that means those opposing offenses, whenever they try to do a juke move, whenever they try to do a nice spin, whenever they try to do a nice cut, whenever they try to be patient and wait him out, it did not work. If he was going for the tackle, he was making the tackle. That's an efficient role player right there. They say his tackling, that is him. That him being able to be a consistent to the ball tackler is his number one trait. He's versatile. He's got tons of range. They say that his block shedding could use some help, but I think the biggest issue for him, they say coming out, is his position definition. Such as this is the same issue that had for his comp, Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons had all the athletic ability in the world, but if he went to a team that didn't know how to play him, they didn't know if they wanted to play him at safety, but then they wanted to play him at linebacker, and they think he had a better role as a linebacker, but the thing is he was kind of small to play linebacker, but yet he seemed kind of big to play safety, and they weren't sure where to put him, and it kind of dwindled his career down, and he ended up hopping across a couple of teams. He's still in the NFL. He never amounted to what everyone expected out of him. Even I remember when he was drafted, I thought Isaiah Simmons was going to be the next hybrid player, and I thought he went to the right place, who had tons of hybrid players on their team in Arizona at the time. So this could be the same issue for this guy. He could be drafted in the top 10 and he could just go to the wrong defensive scheme. Like point blank period. He could be maybe considered a better linebacker than safety, but goes to a scheme that puts him more at safety and he doesn't look as efficient. Or reverse. He goes to a team that plays him more at a safety position or more at a linebacker position over a safety position. And I'm just saying, like, overall, if he's not going to the right defensive scheme, right defensive team, and he's really working with a specific coordinator that can get the best out of him, he could easily become flake out and be considered a bust if drafted in the top 10. So that would be the biggest issue moving forward with him. Next would be my last guy I'm talking about on this episode is Mansour Delane. He is a cornerback from the LSU Tigers. 191 career tackles with 44 plus in each of his last 3 seasons. He has 27 pass defenders in his career with 11 in 2025. 4 forced fumbles and 8 interceptions in his career. He is a solid coverage corner and allowing a very low completion rate against him. He's considered a very physical press corner, which is nice. I love a nice physical press corner. He's going to come up in line. He's going to hit your receiver. He's really can knock a receiver, especially for young receivers or receivers that don't like to be physical. He can really knock you off your rocker. And we've seen it. Receivers that don't like to get physical, they match up against a physical corner and they lay into them all game. They drop balls. They run bad. They can misrun a route. Their timing is off. They can really throw off the whole game for a wide receiver going up against corner with that style. They say he's got phenomenal ball skills as well, and I've watched his tape. He does. He knows when to play the ball and when to play the man. And that is something very impressive about him as a corner. I really liked watching his tape, and I think he has a really high success rate in the NFL. I mean, his length, his physicality are just huge positives. The biggest issue, I think, coming for him is he's a better man-to-man cover than he is a zone coverage. They said his zone coverage could use some work. So most likely going to a team that plays more of a man-to-man defense is going to benefit him in his career, becoming more of an efficient corner, leaning into the style that he is more effective in. And they say his comp would be more so Marshawn Lattimore. So those are the first 10 players I'm talking about. Like I said, I think the 3 that stood out to me from what I watched, other than let's say 2, other than Mendoza, it looks like Caleb Downs, I think, is a solid, true hit. I think he's going to come to the NFL and he's going to make an immediate impact right away. And then, like I said, David Bailey, he impressed me. From what I watched, from what I've read, he impressed me. I think he is going to be a bona fide stud coming out in the NFL, and I think he should get drafted. He easily should be drafted in the top 5, in my opinion. I think he can bring a great juice to any team and would create a true, consistent player on any side of the defense. That's just my thoughts on it. Like I said, after all this list, I'll compile a mock draft and really see where we're going. Now, I was going to, in this podcast, start my breakdown of the offseason, what teams need, of free agents, this, that, and the other. I decided I'm going to wait. I'm going to start that breakdown next week because with free agency looming, this is when I want to pull out a little bit of that football 101 mentality. And before I actually start running the course on the channel, I want to talk about what goes on in the free agency. Because I think a lot of people, there's a lot of terms that get thrown around, like unrestricted free agent, restricted free agent, the exclusive rights free agents. There's like 5th-year options, all these different talks. All they're talking about contract negotiations and all. There's just all this stuff that gets talked about. And I think unless you're actively part of an organization or a true follower deeper in the NFL beyond just the players and the games, you're not really sure what's going on. So I want to sit here and explain a little bit and define these terms for you. So when I through the next couple episodes, when I talk about free agency, I don't have to go into detail about it. You would already know. So first and foremost, I'm going to define what it is to be an unrestricted free agent, and I'm going to quote this word for word right from the NFL operations.com. I want quoted. It would be the players with at least 4 accrued seasons who are free to negotiate and sign with any team without restrictions. An accrued season is defined as a season in which a player has played on the 50-man 53-man roster for at least 6 games. In other words, his players can explore offers from any team with no obligations to their team. So basically what that, in like more layman's terms, what that means is a player coming off his contract will be able to sign, will be able to go and do what he pleases. He's able to listen to every team, like such as Tyler Linderbaum for the Ravens. We did not pick up his 5th-year option, which I will get to. So he has the ability to now speak to any team he wants to speak to because we have no rights to him right now. He is just a free agent. So if he wants to go talk to the Giants, where John Harbaugh is, he can. If he wanted to go talk to, let's say, the Jets, he can. Like if he wanted to go talk to a team that needs a center, I don't know, just any Saints, maybe, I don't know. Just he can. He has the ability to talk to any team he wants to talk to, or eventually sign with us again. Next term would be the restricted free agents, players with 3 accrued seasons who can negotiate with other teams. But their original team has the right to a first refusal. This means the original team can match any offer made by another team or receive draft pick compensation if they choose not to match. They can offer different types of tenures, which would be that draft compensation, which are considered a compensatory draft pick if the player signs with another team. So those compensatory picks goes based on the overall player's draft stock, overall player's performance, just different stuff like that. So that would be more of a specific moving forward of basically they are not going to be considered part of the team, but whoever is an unrestricted free agent, if they want to go sign with, let's say, the Dolphins, and coming off let's say the Ravens, I'll use the Ravens again. Coming off the Ravens, they want to go sign with the Dolphins. The Ravens can refuse that and then link them up for another 1-year contract because they've only played 3 seasons, and that was how much their contract allotted at that moment. So you see that is a kind of slightly different than restricted. It slightly different than unrestricted. It just kind of limits what you're able to do. But a lot of teams will block those and just re-sign you. Or if they don't want you, they'll just let you walk and you go to another team. And then they can get a compensatory pick in return, which can be like an extra 3rd or an extra 4th or an extra 5th round pick. Something the Ravens are really good at doing. And then next would be the exclusive rights free agents. Players with fewer than 3 accrued seasons whose contracts have expired if the team offers them a 1-year contract at the league minimum, they cannot negotiate with any other team. So most of the time, these can be undrafted players. These can be players signing in the later rounds. There's a lot of different things for these type of players. But like I said, for less than 3 accrued seasons, so they did not play on the 53-man roster for a minimum of 6 games. But like I said, like with the restricted, the team has the ability to sign them to a 1-year contract on the minimum deal. And then that's it. They can't negotiate. They can't go anywhere else. This is kind of like puts you in the tightest position of free agency where you have almost none of your own power, and the team and the organization that you're currently with holds your cards in their hand. And then last but not least, I want to talk about the 5th-year option, which will be coming up this season, which I also dropped some examples. But it's a part of a rookie's contract of those drafted in the 1st round, allowing teams to extend the player for a 5th year. The option's cost is based on a player's position, draft slot, and past performances. The 5th-year option must be decided before the player's 4th season begins, which locks the player for a guaranteed year at a set price that is non-negotiable. So basically, for a team that had drafted a player, let's say 4 years ago, going into their 4th season, you have the ability to cash in on their 5th-year option, meaning that you will pay them based on an average rate of the things I laid out, that amount of money for 1 year, which gives you an ability, which 5th-year options do a lot of different things. So there's one, if you sign a 5th-year option, you're saying, so a lot of the times it's to see if you really believe that player's production will continue and then produce a new contract going into the season. But by picking up a 5th-year option, they now become an unrestricted free agent after that 5th-year option. So you do not have the same rights to them as you would going into after the 4 years. Whether if they were on a 3-year contract in a later round. Or, like I said, this only requires 2 first-round eligible players. Another thing, you might want to sign a contract before the 5th year option becomes an option. A lot of players going from the 3rd year to the 4th year, that's when they get their big contract. Those who have produced really early, they will get that contract, and it would be normally a 2 or 3 year extension where they sign basically, they have a 3-year contract, they will renegotiate to a 4-year contract. So now their 3 years is basically going to become 7 years, but with one team, but with new negotiating terms, new pay, proper pay, stuff like that. Notable guys eligible this coming offseason, going into next season for that, are a guy like Bryce Young, who the Panthers have already picked up his option, CJ Stroud, who the Texans have already, well, they say exercised his option, so they both will be playing on their 5th year option to prove if they deserve a higher pointed contract moving forward after their 4th season. So they will all be tenured on the team for at least another 2 years, but this also can give negotiating power. So if they don't do well, it's easier to cut off them without overpaying them. Now, 3 guys are also up for the options is Will Anderson Jr., Devin Witherspoon, and Bijan Robinson. Now, Will Anderson Jr. just had a phenomenal top 5 finisher in Defensive Player of the Year. Amazing sack season. He had a phenomenal season. This is an instance for a player that's probably going to get a contract going into his 4th season, so this team can lock him up long term and be able to allocate the money throughout his contract in the years to help with salary cap and make sure they're not paying. They could make sure he gets paid early and often, so they don't have to wait a year and it become more expensive. Same with Witherspoon, who just won a Super Bowl as the number 1 corner, and Bijan Robinson, who finished top 5 in Offensive Player of the Year as well. Guys like these, you really want to get under contract before even thinking about exercising the 5th year option, because with that 5th year option, you could eventually lose one of these high quality top tier players, and they can go to another team and sign maybe even a bigger contract, which makes you look foolish now with them going and producing somewhere else. So that is the prospects that I wanted to talk, the 10 prospects I talked about, and a little bit of information about free agency. I hope that wasn't too much information right away. This will be the end of the first offseason episode, and we'll see where we go from there. Everyone have a great rest of your day, and you know what? Love you all. Thank you.